Back at you with another one. It's Goji time once again, folks. And nothing better than a lazy Saturday afternoon when you're off of work and you get a Goji delivery in the mail. I want to first say shout out to my boy at Malo20, MALO20 on Mercari. I believe this is like the third figure I purchased off of his site on Mercari. Check that out at MALO20. He's got some cool Godzilla stuff from time to time. And this is another one. It's one I've been wanting. And I watched a ton of reviews on this before I purchased this figure. And I'm pretty excited to have him. So let's get him out of there. Okay, super excited for this one, folks. And what a beautiful box. Very, very nice cover here. This is the Hiya Exquisite Basic Godzilla Heat Ray Godzilla Translucent version. Of course, this is from the 2014 movie Godzilla, the first movie in the MonsterVerse in the Legendary Pictures American Godzilla. And what a very nice box with the city in the background there and the beautiful colors of yellow, orange, and red in the buildings, and a heat ray charging up Godzilla, picture of the figure on the front. That looks excellent. You have Godzilla with the logo on top. Same thing on the bottom. On one side, you have a really nice picture of the figure, Heat Ray Godzilla Translucent version. On the other side is a nice other picture of the figure, Heat Ray Godzilla Translucent version. And on the back, it's usually simple. Same thing, Godzilla with the logo and a very nice picture of the figure with the heat ray effect, which you're going to get with it. Simple box, like, you know, we know what Hiya does box-wise. They're classy, they're simple, less is more, but they're classy, good-looking boxes, you know. So let's get them out of there and see what we got. I did a review on the regular version of this, so make sure you check that out if you haven't. But let's get into this. Okay, just to further show you the packaging, you got the longer Hiya box and packaging with this longer clamshell because his tail is long and it just goes the length of the box. I don't know. The 2014 boxes are longer. And you have this beautiful heat ray effect here, which is just this gorgeous light blue. And then we're going to get the extra head and the extra set of hands right here. So very nice. Let's get them out of the clammy. One thing I love and I'm a sucker for is to get a nice plastic crinkle sound in your videos. Word to God's box. That's probably the only reason why I do it. But, yeah. Anyway. Goji, baby. Let's get him out. Okay, so here he is straight out of the box with everything he comes with. This is quite a nice looking breath effect. I really love the color of it. I love the lighter color, and we'll get into it about why it's this color. Then you got the extra head, which is for the atomic breath, and the two set of basically closed fist hands. And here's the Goji. You're going to get a difference in the paint job from the regular version of 2014. I don't know if it's better, because that was quite an impressive paint job, really, to highlight the different, you know, like that cream tan color on his chest last time. A lot of that is absent or more subtle this time around, which I think is fine because this is basically a night version of the figure, you know what I mean? You know, because that's when he blew his atomic breath, when he fought with the Muto at night. So the paint job could be to possibly reflect that. And here you're going to have these beautiful dorsal plates, which are a lighter color blue, like the atomic breath piece, and that's also for a reason. And it's very, very nice. I like how it's subtle because, you know, that's movie accurate. You know what I mean? And we'll talk about why. But this is really, really very, very nice looking, you know. A very screen accurate depiction of how he looked in the movie. So let's start posing them and talk about the movie further and talk about the figure further. Okay, so here we go. Very, very nice. I stood this up as tall as you could possibly get him with the legs, because he comes in that, like, sitting in taking a dump pose, whatever it is, so you got to kind of, if you want to get this figure, to look a little better than that, you stand them up straight, you know what I mean? I don't know why they have them so crouched over, but it's good that you could get them up straight anyhow. So, I've said this before, and I'm just going to say it again to stress it. This here is a very important Godzilla. You know what I mean? Because after the 98 debacle with Zilla, that was, looked bad for the Americans and made Japan look bad, and Japan didn't like it. This was the first American Godzilla since the 98, And because of the way everybody felt about that, how it just wasn't Godzilla, they really had to get this one right. And man, I think they succeeded in spades, because this look of Godzilla right now is what the world thinks of when they think of Godzilla. You know what I mean? And of course, -1, which is just a beautiful design. So, that came on, and now there's, you might think of two different looks. You might be thinking of -1 when you think of Godzilla, or you might be thinking of this one, the legendary one, which is such a classic look. And it's very nice because, Gareth Edwards, who did this movie, and crew, really put effort into creating this version of Godzilla. The people who came up with this design did a very careful and good job with it, and they put thought behind it. You know what I mean? They made this Godzilla basically off the strength of how he would look, how he would move if he really existed in real life. You know what I mean? And so, you have certain things here. Basically, of course, you're going to have the doors. So when you license Godzilla from Japan, there's certain things that they want you to follow. He's got to have the dorsal plates. He's got to have feet that, have 4 toes like that. And you can't kill him. Those are the major rules. You can't kill him off. And the dorsal plate and the toes. But, they added certain things that this Godzilla would have if he was alive in real life. Like, they basically gave him big tree trunk legs for a creature of his size to be able to move around. They gave him elephant feet. You know what I mean? When thinking of it, an animal of that size has those kind of feet to support the body. And that was the idea behind this design of Godzilla, where you get these big tree trunk legs and elephant feet. And I love that. You know what I mean? And then they thought to give him some armor. Like, they have this armor plate on his chest. And so, those things make a lot of sense. Now, since Godzilla is a land and sea creature, what would they give him? How would he be able to breathe underwater? And they give him these gills right here. You know what I mean? So that, to me, shows care and thought into creating this design. And of course, the face and head is memorable and menacing. And, they just did a great job with this Godzilla. It's a recognizable Godzilla. You see it, you know it as Godzilla, and it's great that it has these things to make it look, to put that realism to it. You know what I mean? And we love that. And this figure here right now is very beautiful. That's all I could say. I really like the paint job on it, even though it is different. You know, it's missing those like creams and greens. It's much more gray, this figure, and it's darker, it seems, overall anyway. There's less dry brushing on this one. We'll get out the old one to compare, but it's still extremely sharp looking. I love the dorsal plates. I love the spiky dorsal plates on this 2014 Godzilla 2. I thought that was a nice effect that they created. They shortened the dorsal plates. They made them look more rugged and spiky. And I love that, you know. Of course, he would evolve and the dorsal plates would change and grow. But in this movie, these are the dorsal plates we get, and they're very, very cool. They're very different than what we were used to. I love them. And on this figure, of course, they're painted a beautiful ice blue, you know, to give you that charging up effect, which we'll talk about that more. But Hiya always gets it right as far as screen accuracy. I love the head. This is an accurate looking Godzilla right here. And the tail is pretty good on this figure as well. I pointed that out last time too. It's pretty dope. It's a different tail. That's another thing too. You know, the tail was more whip-like. You know, and I love the thought that went into that. You have the battle armor on his chest. You have the gills so he could breathe underwater. The tree trunk legs and elephant feet to support the body, and this whip-like tail to give you this memorable design of Godzilla here, you know. So, all right, let's go further and pose this guy. Okay, that looks really nice. You can see the detail just popping right here on his skin, all of those nooks and crannies right there. You know, Hiya does screen accuracy and details very, very well. It's standard Hiya articulation. You get some good movement in the legs here. This tail is very whip-like. It's nice. You could pose it in like really slinky type of positions like that, you know. And this is a whip-like tail basically. So, you know, it fits this creature better, this tail. You know, in my opinion, I really like the tail and the dorsal plates on this version of Godzilla right here. Let's take a close look at his face. The eyes, to me, are extremely well done. I love that. You know what I mean? The eyes really bring it to life. I like the shape of the head and the snout. You know what I mean? Because he did have a bigger head in this movie, which I tend to prefer. Seems like his head got a little smaller as the designs went on in the Monsterverse. But I definitely I prefer this head, this boxier head. You can see the teeth are very well done. They're painted nicely. It's a subtle bone color that you can see right there. Inside of the mouth, no special effects. It's nice. The tongue is pretty well done. It's not popping out at you. It's kind of bland on the inside of the mouth here, but it's nice nonetheless. And you can put him in a nice, beautiful action pose like that. So we're looking good here, in my opinion. As far as the paint job, the design, the sculpt, very, very nice. Okay, look at that. I love that. I love the balance on Hiya figures right here to just give you a beautiful tail off the ground pose like that. That's absolutely amazing, man. These lurching forward tail off the ground poses. You know, these type of ones really, Hiya, you could achieve them with so nicely because the figures have such good balance to be able to give you a pose like that. And this pose right here will showcase these beautiful dorsal plates, which are just so subtly done. And they are translucent, which we'll get to later. We'll test that. But this pose right here really gives you a chance to see the detail on this figure. I love that. Godzilla's skin looks awesome. Very, very nice. And see, when you talk about balance with the help of the tail, here you could get a very nice foot stomping pose with this figure, which I love. You know what I mean? Because Godzilla's going to step on you with his foot, let's face it. So your figure better do a good foot stomping pose if you so choose. And I love that. Man, this figure comes to life. I really, really like the screen accuracy of this. Super, super nice. You could do a nice running pose right here. Even though this Godzilla was a heavy plotter, not really a runner, this is what the running pose is looking like. And it's nice. It's a running or walking type of in-action pose. And this is how wide you could get them, arms and legs. The legs, you know, are a little on the stiff side. That's the same for every Hiya figure. So are the arms, you know what I mean? But these arms I find to be a little bit smoother. I was surprised that they went out as wide as they did. I thought the legs might go out a little wider, but that's fine. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, so here he is with the alternate head, which, like a lot of reviewers pointed out, have no teeth. I understand why they would do that, obviously, you know, because you got to put the atomic breath piece in there and you can't really tell when it's in there. So, but this is awesome. That's about as high as you could get him to shoot the atomic breath. That's about as high as his head goes in general. So, but that's still pretty damn good. And these are the alternate fist hands, which I believe go very nicely with the atomic breath piece. Of course, you know, it was a big deal because, you know, this movie, Godzilla 2014, was a slow burn with not as much, you know, kaiju titan action as the people would have liked. They gave you Godzilla in bits and pieces in that movie. And so when it came down to towards the end of the movie, when he finally shot his atomic breath, people were going snapping out and going nuts in movie theaters. You know what I mean? Because it was the build up until he used his atomic breath was big, you know? And you see in the movie, basically, you see his tail just light up until it goes all the way up, and then he shoots it out. Now, he had a lighter color blue as far as the atomic breath was concerned in this movie. And I like that attention to detail because, you know, it wasn't until he charged up more, which is, you know, I believe it's part of the movie canon that he just, his atomic breath wasn't at full strength yet in this movie. And when he charged up more, you know, the color changed. It became more brighter blue, you know what I mean? And he could shoot it when he wanted, you know, at pretty much at will by the time it got to Godzilla versus Kong. But in this movie, we get an ice blue color that was honestly very, very cool, you know. And when he killed the Muto with it, you know, like I said, people went nuts in the movie theaters, and it was a very cool scene, you know. So that's nice to be able to do that. Okay, so this atomic breath effect is kind of heavy, you know what I mean? So it's hard to have him in a tail off the ground pose and keep it up, which that's fine, but you can make it look like he's shooting it at the ground like that with the tail up. So you could still get a very cool pose out of it. All right, that looks nice. This is just straight out, basically, and I just wanted to show you what kind of turn at the waist you could get right there. That's super nice. Yeah, it's gonna, you know, this is what Hiyas are all about. We've seen this before. We've seen this kind of articulation, but that looks nice. Now I just want to show you the translucency of the dorsal plates, and they're all translucent, even down here. If you see how nice that is. Look at that. See that? See the light come through? Very, very nice. So you can do it like he's charging up. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so now we're going to compare him with the original that we got, which you see is actually darker. I thought this guy was darker, but the paint job is darker on that. It's just the contrast of everything else is very, very different on this as well. You know, please note the teeth are better. The teeth are better on this one than they are here. They're painted, you know, kind of gummy, not, you know, looks like a Colgate mouth. These teeth are painted much better, bone color instead of bright white like that. The eyes are better on the Heat Ray version than they are here. I think the general overall face is better, to be honest with you. I love the paint job on this one, though. You know, I like the, you know, green, army greenish, tannish brushing on the armor plate on the body for this one. I love, this is a great figure, you know what I mean? But, you know, this is the Heat Ray vision. This is him at night, really. Which you would, I guess maybe that's why they did it, you know, lighter gray, just to contrast it with the dorsal plates better. I don't know, you know. Man, it's two different nice figures. It's good to have both of them. Definitely different paint jobs on both of them. But the head goes to this guy, you know. Yeah, it looks like, yeah, it's definitely the dorsal plates are better here, of course. You know, you're getting the Heat Ray and they're translucent, so that's nice. But yeah, but that's the comparison of it anyway. And I want to compare it with the NECA, which I'm always going to do with the 2014, man. You know what I mean? Like, that is just, this is, you know, where we've gone from NECA to Hiya, but this NECA right here is still holding the test of time. It's still an extremely screen accurate, very nice Godzilla 2014. You can see it holds its own when it's placed next to it in detail and screen accuracy and everything. Love that. And just to show you it with another version of the Heat Ray 2014 right here. This is the Bandai Vinyl New York Comic-Con exclusive edition here, which I think was one of the nicest 2014 figures to drop at that time. You know, they really got it right. You see the big thick head, the gills, the armor, the different color paint on the armor, the screen accuracy of it. This is one of the nicest 2014 Godzilla figures out there, man, you know? If you don't have that, take a look and see if you can find it. It's a limited exclusive edition, New York Comic-Con. Beautiful. You can see the inside of the mouth is blue right there as well. But yeah, very nice. And here we go with the female Muto. Very nice the way it scales up here. I love that. That looks great. And that's the way, you know, I'm going to be posing them on the shelf with the Muto. But very, very nice here. All right. Basically, we're going to get them like similar to the picture on the front of the box. Beautiful. I highly recommend it. The 2014 is definitely one of the nicest Hiyas. The Heat Ray version is a nice touch. I highly recommend this. If you like it, go out there, get you some Heat Ray Goj. Like the goddamn video, subscribe to my channel, and I will be back at you with another one shortly. Peace.